What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name's Dr. Vincent Esposito, and today we're going to be doing 3 different recipes using cremini mushrooms. Now, fun fact, cremini mushrooms are actually the same mushrooms as your white button mushrooms and your portobello mushrooms. So actually your white button mushrooms are the most immature, then they grow into cremini mushrooms, and that's how you tell their age apart. Cremini mushrooms tend to be a little bit browner, a little bit earthier in flavor. And then those cremini mushrooms grow into those big portobellos. And that's actually why cremini mushrooms are sometimes, you might see them in the store, they're called baby bello mushrooms. So cremini mushrooms are a good source of folate, of other B vitamins. They're also a good source of fiber due to the pectins and cellulose they have kind of in their structure. And depending on the type of mushrooms, some mushrooms have antifungal and antibacterial properties. You might have heard of things like even shiitake mushrooms. They tend to have some extra kind of health benefits. Now, ultimately today we're going to be talking about cremini mushrooms. If you have white button mushrooms, you can basically substitute out them for creminis in any of these if either you can't find them or you prefer white mushroom. Mushrooms are also technically a fungus. They are a good source of vitamins B1, 2, and 3, and even B5 and B6. Also some trace minerals like zinc, copper, phosphorus, potassium, manganese, and selenium. Now, I've mentioned manganese, I know, a few times in these first few videos, and it is not the same thing as magnesium. It actually plays some other roles in the body. So manganese is actually needed for the proper formation of breast milk. It also works in conjunction with vitamin K to help remodel bone, and it has an important role in maintaining the integrity of your skin, ligaments, and tendons, and also plays a role in blood sugar control. In fact, diabetics tend to have half the manganese of those who are not diabetic. So let's talk about some of the recipes we're gonna go over today. So like I mentioned, we're talking about cremini mushrooms, and we're gonna use them 3 different ways as usual. So we're actually gonna make a vegan meatloaf. Now, mushrooms are a staple, particularly in vegetarian or plant-based diets, because they're the closest thing you're gonna get to a meat substitute in terms of texture. So that's why it's gonna play a huge role in something like a meatloaf. We're also gonna do a plant-based version of a stroganoff. Usually there is beef and cream in your traditional recipes, and we're gonna switch that up a little bit. And then we're also gonna make a mushroom gravy. So I hope you find these recipes interesting, and if you do, please follow along, like and subscribe below. And if you haven't heard already, we're doing live cooking classes twice a week, so if you're interested in signing up for those, let me know. There'll be more information in the description below. But right now, let's hop into the recipes, and I will see you on the other side.
Okay, so we're gonna start with getting our meatloaf ready. So we're gonna go in with about a tablespoon of olive oil and then get all our vegetables in there. So today, we're doing some celery, we're doing some garlic, and we're gonna saute that with a pinch of salt to just kind of break it down a little bit. Then we're going in with about 1 white onion, and we're gonna cook it until the onion has softened. So about 4 to 5 minutes, you're gonna stir occasionally until that becomes translucent. Then we're gonna go in with some garlic and then a little bit of a pinch of salt. And then we're gonna cook that down till our garlic is fragrant, so about another minute. And then that's about the time we get our chopped mushrooms in. So you wanna chop your mushrooms fairly fine. If you want, bigger chunks, you don't have to go this small. But a little bit of salt and pepper. We wanna cook these down until the mushrooms have softened a bit. They kind of give off some of their liquid, as you notice here. By the time they're about to give out their water, we can add our kale, and that's when we're gonna add it in batches, so it's gonna take some time to kind of break it all down depending on how much you're using. You don't need to use kale, you can omit it, but it's an easy way to get greens in. So we're gonna saute that down with some garlic powder, and we're gonna get ready to build our meatloaf. Okay, so in a large bowl we have some cooked lentils, we have a can of rinsed chickpeas, and then we're going in with the rest of our ingredients. Now, normally I would wait for this to cool down, but for video purposes, I did not. I would generally recommend, if you have the time, to cool this off first. So some almonds in there, some raisins, and we're gonna go in with our spices. So we have some rosemary, we have some cumin, we have some thyme. We're gonna add some smoked paprika, some garlic powder, and then some salt and pepper, and a little bit of tamari. So the reason we're doing this, we wanna really heighten that umami flavor, really try to create some of that flavor, and a lot of these spices are going to do that. So we're going to get those all in, and then we need to add our binder, and today that's oat flour. So I literally took a cup of oats, I pulsed them in a dry blender, and just added it in. And we're gonna mix this until we find a consistency that we can actually mold and it'll hold together. You might need more oat flour, that's totally fine. Feel free to add it. And then you notice here I have a lined bread loaf, bread tray, and I lined it with parchment paper so when I take it out, it won't stick. And again, we have our oven preheated to 400 degrees. We're gonna leave that in there for 20-25 minutes. So now we're gonna get started on our stroganoff. So we're gonna go in with an onion and about a whole head of garlic. Again, I like a lot of garlic. You can use 3-4 cloves if you want. We're gonna cook that down till our onion's translucent. So again, 4 or 5 minutes. We're gonna go in with about 3 cups or so of mushrooms. Feel free to add more if you want. Again, sliced mushrooms, a little bit of salt and pepper. And again, we wanna cook these down until all that liquid is released from those mushrooms. It should reduce by about half or so in size. You'll notice here I went in with some lemon juice. Now you can use white wine if you have it. I did not have it at the time. We also went in with some veggie stock, a little bit of Dijon mustard, some paprika, some tamari, some apple cider vinegar, and a little bit of salt and pepper. And that is going to be the base of our stroganoff. So again, I prefer to use white wine. I did not have any, so I went in with lemon juice. That's totally fine. And then to thicken it up, I'm going to go in with about 1.5 tablespoons or so of arrowroot powder. You can make a slurry. I did not in this video. That's totally fine. And then we're going to bring it to a boil. We're going to reduce it to a simmer. We're going to season accordingly, add a little bit of nutritional yeast, and cook it down to where we're at a good consistency. And then we're going to add our cooked pasta. Now, I don't want to go over cooked pasta too much because everyone's using different pasta. It's going to cook a little differently. Cook it according to the package. Here, I'm using a chickpea pasta because this dish really doesn't have any really good protein sources, so I figured use a chickpea one. And that's going to be it for our stroganoff for now, which means it's time to make our mushroom gravy. So again, we're going in with a whole onion, a whole white onion, and we're going to cook it down 4 or 5 minutes. Then we're going to add our mushrooms, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and we're going to, again, cook this down until these mushrooms kind of release all their liquid. It may take a little while. Here we're going in with about 1/4 cup to about 1/3 of a cup of oat flour, and this is going to be kind of our thickening agent for our gravy here. Now, I'm going in about 1 cup or so at a time with the vegetable stock. The reason being, I'm going to kind of cook this down and replace it as I'm going to really build that flavor. So I'm going to add some garlic powder, some tamari, some thyme to really give it a little bit of that kind of earthy flavor. And we're going to bring it to a boil and then reduce it to a simmer. Now, depending on how long you cook this is going to dictate kind of how much flavor you can build in this. So again, I used about 3.5 cups of veggie stock, so this took me a few stages. So you're basically going to repeat the process. As it begins to reduce, you're going to add more veggie stock and continue to cook it down. Now, you can do it probably in 10 minutes, but the longer you do it, the thicker and richer the flavor is going to be. So I suggest doing it for at least 20 to 25 minutes, replacing the stock as you need it. And now it's time to plate. So, as you can see, we put some of our mushroom gravy on our meatloaf and some parsley. We added some nutritional yeast and some parsley to our mushroom chickpea pasta stroganoff. And that is going to be it today. So again, mushrooms are super versatile. You can use them a ton of different ways. But today, hopefully these are 3 completely different ways you might be able to try at home. Again, if you're interested, we have started cooking classes. So if you want to cook with me twice a week, feel free to check it out in the links below. You can find us there. And until next time, guys, see you next week and take care.